we're just about to go onto a new topic called standard form, but before we do that, we're going to work on our powers of 10 and understanding our powers of 10. So the first thing is, how could I write 100 as a power of 10? Do you know what that means? I know you can do it. Do you know what I mean if I'm asking you to write it as a power of 10? Okay, so a power of 10 is a 10 with a little power up here. So what power needs to go there to represent the number 100? It's a power of 2, because 10 times 10 is 100. So if we're writing the number 100, we can write it in 3 different ways. We can write it as 100, we can write it as 10 squared, and we can write it as 10 times 10. What about the number 1 million? Can you pause the video now and see if you can write that in 2 other different ways for me? Okay, so one way I can write it is 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. I could write it like that, but what would be a much easier way of writing it? 10 to the power of 6. I could write it like that. Now, when we move on to standard form, it's really, really important that we understand how to write things as powers of 10. Now, let's look at powers of 10 in a little bit more detail. We know that 10 squared is 100. Do we know 10 cubed? 1,000. Do you know what 10 to the power of 4 is? 10,000, and 10 to the power of 5 is 100,000, and 10 to the power of 6, we just did that one is 1,000,000. Now look what's happening to these powers. They're going up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go the other way instead and see if you can spot the pattern before I show you. So what would 10 to the power of 1 be? Just 10. What do you think 10 to the power of 0 would be? Notice what's happening each time we reduce by a power. Each time the power goes down by 1, what we're actually doing is dividing by 10. We've divided by 10 here and the power has reduced. We've divided by 10 here and the power has reduced. We've divided by 10 here and the power has reduced. So what do you think, if the power is reduced and we're going to divide by 10, what number do you think goes here? It's got to be the number 1. And that's a point that's really important to remember. Pause the video and write this down after I've written it. Anything to the power of 0 is 1. So 10 to the power of 0 is 1. 2 to the power of 0 is 1. 691 to the power of 0 is 1. And you can even do it with algebra. A to the power of 0 is 1. X to the power of 0 is 1. Because it doesn't matter what the number is. If it's to the power of 0, it's always 1. So make sure you've got this written somewhere in your book. Pause the video now and write it. The other thing I want to look at, though, is what happens if we keep going down. What happens if this power becomes negative? Well, we would have to just keep dividing by 10. So 10 to the negative 1 would be 0.1. 10 to the negative 2 would be 0.01. I'm just dividing by 10 each time. And 10 to the negative 3 is 0.001. Because all I'm doing is looking for this pattern and dividing by 10 each time. And I could keep going, and each time I just need to divide by 10. You might want to pause the video now and copy the bit down the left-hand side. You will find it useful for your Hegarty clip in a little while. So just have another think about what we've been doing. We've said 10 times 10 is 10 squared, which is 100. We said 10 to the power of 1, which is just 10. 10 to the power of 1 is the same as 10. It's just 10. 10 to the power of 0, that means I've got no powers of 10, so I've just got the number 1. 10 to the power of negative 1 was 0.1. Now, what I want you to remember is what we did before. So, remember, these are going down. We're dividing by 10 each time. So, what this one, 10 to the negative 1, is actually 1 divided by 10. 1/10, or 0.1. And the next one, 10 to the negative 2, is actually 1 divided by 10 divided by 10, which is actually 1/100th, which is 0.01. And it just keeps going, and you just keep dividing by 10. And this idea of this negative power is going to be the bit that you probably find hardest. All you need to remember about a negative power is when you've got a negative power, you are dividing by 10. You're no longer timesing 10 by itself, you're dividing by 10. And you might have to do it more than once. The power will tell you how many times you do it. Keep listening and you'll understand it when I do it with a number. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put some of these numbers into a sum. So the first thing I want you to think about is 6.2 times 10 squared. So what does that mean? It means 6.2 times 100. Can we do that sum? Yeah, we can do 6.2 times 100, 620. Okay, now this is actually standard form. All standard form is it's a sum. But we usually use it with really, really big numbers or really, really small numbers. So we'll try one more. What's 5 times 10 to the power of 6? What does that mean? Well, it means 5 times 10, 6 times, because that's what 10 to the power of 6 means. 5 times 10, 5 times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10, times 10. There. That's my answer. Now, I know that says 5 million, but all you're doing is looking at the numbers and thinking, how many times do I need to multiply that by 10? What do you think happens when we've got a number times 10 to a negative power? What did I say it meant when we've got a negative power? When we've got a negative power, I said it means we're going to divide by 10. So this sum here means 3. Because it's multiplying by a negative power, I'm actually going to divide by 10. And that little number there tells me I'm going to need to do it twice. So 3 divided by 10 is 0.3. Divide by 10 again, I get 0.03. Let's try a different one. 7.6 multiplied by 10 to the negative 5. So what does that sum actually mean? It means 7.6, and what did we say negative powers mean? They mean I'm going to divide by 10. How many times am I going to do it? I'm going to divide by 10 5 times. Now, sometimes you might want to write this one out in a bit more detail, and this is the way I would write it. I'd say, okay, if I'm dividing by 10, I'm moving the decimal place. I'm going 1, and I'm making it smaller, so it would move to make it 0.76. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that decimal point would move to here. And then I'm going to fill in, because I have to have 0 point, I'm going to fill in all these bumps, because that's how many times I moved the decimal place. Now, because I've moved the decimal place, that's not going to be there anymore, and I'm going to rewrite that number 0.000076. So this sum here actually stands for this number. And remember, standard form, which is what this is always used when they're really, really big numbers or really, really small numbers. Today, though, we're just looking and making sure we understand multiplying by powers of 10 and dividing by powers of 10. When is it that we divide by a power of 10? What does the power need to look like? Yep, if the power is negative, that means you're going to divide by 10. Now, I've not fully explained what standard form is. I'm going to explain that tomorrow. But I want you to remember tomorrow that it might be worth watching this video again. This video will get you through your Heggerty Maths clips that you've got to do today. And today you have to do Heggerty Maths clip 121 and 123. You can watch his videos as well if you want. They will help you. Or you can watch this one again. This is a brand new topic and it is a grade 5 topic. So if you struggle, you should really watch the videos again. I hope it goes well. Email me if you have any problems and have a good day.